Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to this special event today at Putra Specialty Hospital. I am Dr. Eng Jiva, consultant cardiothoracic surgeon here. I want to talk to you about diet and how healthy diet can prevent infections and also, if you do get it, recover from it. Now, I remember just about two months ago when visiting a hospital, one of the questions people used to ask, have you been to China? Not so long ago. Now this thing has blown up all around the world, COVID-19. Now, when I checked this morning, according to Johns Hopkins Hospital in US, the total number infected exceeded 3.27 million people, of which in the United States of America, more than 1 million have been infected. And that's probably an underestimate because of the lack of testing facilities, even in America. And in excess of 60,000 people in the US have died. So now you say, well, why is this happening? People will tell you that this is a new virus, a mutant coronavirus. And in China, they managed to isolate it and work out the genetic sequence way back. So it's new virus, so we have no immunity against this new virus. You know, in the UK, they were toying with the idea of this herd immunity. Because this is a new virus, we have no immunity against it. So the idea is to let people get infected. And then the community will have an immunity. But unfortunately, this will cause a lot of people to die, and they've abandoned them. So there's one explanation that this is a new virus. But why are we so susceptible? So why is our body so weak now? So what has happened to our immunity? The obvious thing is the diet. Now, as I said, the US now is almost a third of the world's infected cases, right? And the mortality rate is quite high too. So what is the problem? It's the diet, and by implication, the American diet. So it's the American diet, the American way of life, which is causing the problem, affecting our immune system, that nowadays everybody in the world, in the whole world, right, is at risk of developing funny infections. And this is a new one, as I said. So whether you subscribe to vegetarian diet, non-vegetarian diet, keto diet, and all kinds of different diets, the common denominator is the fat and oil. Now, when I say fat and oil, they actually mean the same thing. When something is solid, it is called fat. When it's liquid, it's called oil. Unfortunately, there's been a lot of misunderstanding and misconception about the importance of fat and oil in a diet. And this basically started from this idea, and now we know, a lot of people know that it is wrong, that it's the cholesterol. The cholesterol is what everybody is worried about. And by implication, cholesterol means saturated fat and more fat. So the idea that saturated fat is bad for you means that a lot of people now choose unsaturated fat as the healthier choice. Now, okay, COVID maybe killed a lot of people, but if you look at the overall picture, the epidemic of heart disease, diabetes, and so on is even worse. In US alone, probably 87 million people suffer from heart disease. You might think, well, they're separate things, right? But they're not separate, they're linked. And we know from China, from Wuhan, that people who died more likely suffer from pre-existing conditions like heart disease, diabetes, high blood pressure, and so on. In fact, when they studied the population in Italy, the people who died, more than 90% of them have these pre-existing conditions. But my idea is that actually they're interlinked, and the common factor is the fat. Now, at this stage, I think I need to explain a little bit what is the difference between saturated and unsaturated. If you studied chemistry before, you will know that fat essentially is a long chain of carbon. Can be as long as 28 carbon. Now, each carbon atom can form 4 bonds with the neighboring carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Now, if all the bonds are singular, it is saturated. But in between the carbon atoms, you can have double bonds. So when there is double bond, the fat is unsaturated. If it is only one, then it's called monounsaturated. Poly means more than one. So it is as simple as that. Now, for years now, dietitians and so-called nutrition specialists have been telling us, well, you know, our diet is very lacking in omega-3 and omega-6, right? Especially omega-3. What are these? These are polyunsaturated fat. So now the saturated fat, animal fat, and tropical oil like coconut and palm oil. In fact, all oils have a mixture of saturated and polyunsaturated fat. So when there is a preponderance of saturated, then, you know, like animal fat, that is considered saturated fat. Now, because of a misconception about avoiding cholesterol and thus saturated fat in our diet, people now tend to pick polyunsaturated fat as the healthier option. Now, the double bond in the polyunsaturated fat allows the molecule to bend and fold, which means that these polyunsaturated fat, omega-3 and omega-6, have unique three-dimensional configuration. And these two, the omega-3 and omega-6, are what we call essential fatty acids. They are essential for 2 reasons. Firstly, our body cannot make them, so they have to come from the diet. Secondly, more importantly, they are necessary for our cells to function properly. Now, at this stage, I want to tell a little bit about our cell. Every single cell in the body, it doesn't matter whether it's brain cell or skin cell or heart muscle cell, has a basic structure which is similar. It has a cell membrane, which keeps the inside of the cell from outside the cell, right? So what makes up the cell membrane? Essentially, 2 layers of fat. We call it phospholipid bilayer. So there is no escaping from fat. Even if you say, well, I don't take any fat in the food, right? The body is still full of fat. Now, the membrane, the plasma membrane, or cell membrane, being made up of 2 layers of fat, is absolutely critical for our cells to function properly. Most of the fat is saturated fat. which our body can produce tons and tons of. There's no limit. But we also need the polyunsaturated omega-3 and omega-6. Because if the cell membrane is made up only of saturated fat, it is like building a house, a room with bricks. So there's no channel and so on. So we need special polyunsaturated fat because the shape of the molecule is important as special channels so that substances can go in and out of the cells. Now, let's now consider our immune system. In order, we are exposed to all kinds of infective agents, including viruses and so on, during our daily lives. But our body has an inbuilt mechanism or immune system to recognize and fight against all these infections. So, for our immune system to function properly, we also need the omega-3 and omega-6. As I said earlier, these form special channels for the cells to function properly so that substances can go in and out of the cells. More specifically for the immune system, the cells in the immune system, these would include the macrophages, lymphocytes, and lymphocytes, the two blood categories, the B lymphocytes and the T lymphocytes. Right? They need special receptors. Yeah. Apologies, apparently there was a poor connection. I hope it is all right now. So let's come back to the immune system. As I said, lymphocytes, the macrophages, they need special receptors in order to detect something which is foreign. That will include COVID-19, viruses, and bacteria, other toxins, and so on. Now, for these receptors, part of the structure is also the omega-3 and omega-6. Now, when the omega-3 and omega-6 being polyunsaturated with the double bond, is very, very unstable. I don't think that the double bond makes the structure more stable. They are very unstable. That means they can be very easily damaged during processing. So that is where the misunderstanding comes. That unfortunately, the polyunsaturated omega-3 and omega-6 during processing has been damaged. Now, when we look at the sources of these polyunsaturated fatty acid, they will be in the cooking oil, right? Sunflower oil, corn oil, canola oil, and soy oil. These are high in polyunsaturated fatty acid. Mostly omega-6, although canola oil has a higher content of omega-3. So because these are very delicate and can be very easily damaged, the processing, the initial extraction of the oil, most of this oil are extracted from seeds, right? Now, so the initial processing of the oil has already caused damage to the omega-3 and omega-6. And in fact, this kind of oil, because it's so unstable, even if you don't do anything to it, it will deteriorate anyway. You turn rancid. And when you use it to heat up during the cooking process, it will damage it even more. The worst damage occurs during the manufacturing of margarine. So the margarine is actually the worst thing you can include in the food. By definition, margarine is made from vegetable oil, say sunflower oil. Now, because of the complexity of the oil, this kind of oil remains liquid even when cold. You can do a little experiment for yourself. If you have any sunflower oil or corn oil at home in the kitchen, put a little dish in the freezer compartment of the fridge. Do you think it will turn solid? It wouldn't. That's the nature of the polyunsaturated oil. So in order to turn it into solid, that is, in order to make margarine, you have to change the structure of the oil. It's a process called hydrogenation. In essence, hydrogen gas under high pressure and high temperature is bubbled into this mixture in the presence of metallic catalysts, which includes copper, nickel, and aluminum. And then you get a solid, dirty, gray solid. And then manufacturers will add coloring and vitamins and so on to make them look like butter. So that is the damage to the oil structure is worse in my opinion. Now, coming back to ourselves, if the omega-3 and omega-6, remembering that these are essential for our cells to function properly because our body cannot make it. Now, if the oil, these oil, the omega-3 and omega-6 have been damaged, that means the structure, the three-dimensional configuration is altered, the cells would start to malfunction. That is, substances may not be able to get in and out of the cells, and they will start to die. Now, in terms of our immune system, in our fight against, say, COVID-19 virus, the damage to our immune cells, in lymphocytes and macrophages, because the receptors with the damaged omega-3 and omega-6 are not able to function properly, so they are not able to detect that this virus is a foreign invasion. So that means the first step is already wrong, the recognition of this virus. And subsequently, even if, say, our body is able to detect that this virus is there, the cellular mechanism of damaging, killing of this virus is also damaged because the channels are blocked so that maybe calcium and so on. And one of the ways is nitric oxide generation is defective. Our body also cannot kill off the virus. And this partly explains why we are more susceptible to this kind of pandemic. Now, coming back to people with pre-existing heart disease, diabetes, and so on, by definition, the cellular mechanism is already damaged before the start of the infection because of the damage for the unsaturated fat. So, when faced with further assault on the cells, the body cannot cope. So the virus will spread all the body, not just the lungs, because start from the lungs. There's evidence that, of course, they can spread all our body, and the first cells that come into contact with the virus would be the cells lining the arteries, the small vessels, the endothelium. If you can find a lot of viral particles in the endothelium. So that's why these people are most susceptible to virus infection, and this accounts for why the death rate among people who develop this infection are higher in people who are older and people with pre-existing heart disease, diabetes, high blood pressure, and so on. So that's the very first step on how we can improve our immune system and build our inner shield against virus infection. Of course, I'm not saying that social distancing and this thing is not important. Of course, they are important. I'm talking about how we can improve our immune system, our inner health, so that we can reduce the risk of getting further infection, and also to recover from the infection once again, because this is only one pandemic. Things can change very quickly, and there'll be more viruses, more mutations, and everything coming. So it is very, very critical that we take care of our own health. And there can be no compromise in terms of avoiding damaged polyunsaturated fat and oil. Even moderation kills. Because whatever oil that gets into your body remains in your body for a long, long time. As I said earlier, every single cell in the body has 2 layers of fat as a cell membrane. So whatever oil is added into our system will be mixed into this ocean of fat and oil, and it will not disappear. So that's why what we call the half-life. You know what half-life is? That is the decay from 100% down to 50%. So the half-life of oil in our body is 500 years. So you can't just say, well, now I'll have special treat tonight, and then tomorrow I'll start healthy eating. Well, whatever you take, we're talking about oil now, will remain unless it is not absorbed because you have diarrhea and so on. If it's absorbed into your system, it will remain in your system for a long, long time. So that is the most important step in building our inner shield, in improving our immune system, avoiding damaged polyunsaturated fat. Most important step, 1, avoid margarine at all costs. Avoid margarine like the plague. And be very, very careful with the oil that you're using. Avoid as much as possible sunflower, corn, canola, and soya oil, because these have very high polyunsaturated. Any hydrogenated oil, partially hydrogenated oil, is benzoyl. So why do manufacturers need to hydrogenate the oil anyway? Because the oil is unstable, right? So when you hydrogenate it, you damage it. So that is the first step and the most important step. If we are able to maintain the integrity, health of our cells, then our body actually has a tremendous power to recover itself, to heal itself from all kinds of diseases and conditions and challenges. As I said earlier, by definition, if somebody is already suffering from heart disease or diabetes, the cellular mechanism, the structure is already damaged. And it is much more critical even for these people to think about healthy eating. So that's the first step. There is a second step to do. The second step, there is a lot of evidence now that whole food, plant-based diet can overcome a lot of these problems. Now, in terms of infections, the whole food plant-based diet, because it incorporates a lot of fruits and vegetables, legumes, and so on, will have very high contents of phytonutrients antioxidants and so on, and free radicals. Right? And this would improve our immune system too. Now, even for chronic diseases, like heart disease and diabetes and so on, the whole food plant-based diets have been shown to be effective not only in preventing these kind of diseases, but also in reversing these diseases once it is established. My personal feeling about the whole food plant-based diet is, if you follow it to the letter, it is the avoidance of the damaged oil, which is the most significant part. Avoiding animal products would also be helpful, because nowadays most animals are kept in factory farms, as you know, right? And because there's a prevalence of diseases and so on and so forth, animal agriculture needs a lot of drugs and antibiotics and hormones and so on. So the food, the meat, the milk, eggs and so on come loaded with all these toxins. We are not worried about the cholesterol in the diet. We are not worried about the saturated fat in the diet. But what comes with the product, and that's the most important part. Perhaps, and on another occasion, I'll talk to you about cholesterol and heart disease and so on. But here we're concentrating on our immune system and how we avoid COVID-19. So reducing meat and animal products in general would also help to strengthen our immune system, and so reduce our risk of getting COVID-19 and also of dying from it if you do get it, because most people would recover from the infection, and a lot of people are not symptomatic at all, even though they are still capable of spreading the virus to other people. Now, avoiding animal products, eliminating them, would do a great deal to improving our environment. The greatest damage to our environment comes from animal agriculture. You know, the greatest destructions of the Amazon rainforest, right, is the cutting down of trees and forests to create cattle farms, right? And it's worse for animal agriculture compared to, say, palm oil, because once the trees are gone, they're gone. And in addition, the animals would contribute to more severe pollutions and erosion of the environment. So there's double benefit from this kind of diet, the whole food, plant-based diet. It is good for our health and good for the environment. So that is the second part, second step. But I still want to emphasize that avoiding damaged polyunsaturated fat, which would include margarine, any hydrogenated oil, cooking oils high in polyunsaturated fat like sunflower, corn, canola, and soy oil. This would be the most crucial step. And if you look after that, it would do a long way. But as I said, because the hard oil is very, very long, you're not going to see the effect overnight and for a long time. But if you don't start, then the condition would get worse. And even when this COVID-19 is over, there might be COVID-20 and 21 and so on. Eventually, you succumb. And if you survive all this pandemic, if you don't look after the diet, you will probably suffer and die of heart disease, diabetes, even cancer. Thank you very much for your time with us. Right, we have a few questions here, interesting. I don't want to get into controversy of this warm water business. Huh? No, I'm sure you know the story. Vegetarian food is good, right? But as I said, whether it is vegetarian or vegan or plant-based or keto, Atkins, and so on and so forth, the most important part, in my view, is still the avoidance of damaged polyunsaturated fat, that is damaged vegetable oil. So the question here, next question is, can cancer patients eat egg, milk, and sugar? Well, I think by the time you develop cancer, it's a bit late. But you know, it is still helpful to some extent to avoid animal products as much as possible. So, as much as possible, take more vegetables, fruits, beans, and some nuts. So I would cut down on any animal products. They will include eggs, milk. Sugar is too much sugar is not good for anybody, even if you're not diabetic. So can I ask another question? What is the best oil for cancer patients? Now, so I said that, okay, any oil that is high in polyunsaturated is bad news, right? Because even if you don't cook it, even if you don't heat it up, use it as salad, the damage to the oil already occurs from the initial processing of the oil, from the initial extraction of the oil. So, because polyunsaturated is very unstable, as I said, right? So, if you follow the whole food plant-based, actually there is no added oil at all. But if you must use oil in your cooking for your taste and so on, the healthiest oil is coconut oil. Secondly, palm oil. And number 3 in my list would be olive oil. Now, people who don't understand this thing, this cholesterol story, will say coconut oil is bad news because it's high in cholesterol. I'm sure you heard that before. Well, coconut oil is not good because it's full of cholesterol. Santan is not good because it's full of cholesterol. Right? But that's a misunderstanding of the structure of the oil. Coconut oil is saturated. That means it is very unstable, but it's a special kind of saturated fat. It's called medium chain triglyceride. That is, the molecule is about 12 carbon length. Right? So it is saturated. That means it is very, very stable. So the processing and the heating up and so on is not going to damage this kind of oil, which is saturated. This is similar to animal fat. Well, animal fat is longer, right? So the coconut oil, because it's stable and saturated, is actually good. But then to say that, well, you know, that because coconut oil is so good, that you can use it as a supplement to cure all kinds of diseases is pushing it a bit far, because our body makes saturated fat, right? So it is not what we call essential. And so in terms of avoiding the damaged oil, that's good. That's a good idea. So I would say that if you must use oil, coconut oil would be my choice for cancer patient, probably more critical. Hi, Sanjay. groundnut oil, peanut oil, also has quite high polyunsaturated fat. Yeah? So I will be cautious with that too. That is it. In the natural environment, this oil actually is protected to some extent. This is sunflower oil in the sunflower seed. It's natural. Right? But it's the extraction. When you extract the oil from the seed and process it, and that's the part that's damaging oil. So I will be a bit cautious with groundnut oil. Yeah. Palm oil is quite high in saturated fat. The amount of unsaturated is a bit higher compared to coconut oil, but it's about less than 10%. So it is still quite good. Now there's a kind of palm oil which is it's identical to coconut oil. It's called palm kernel oil. Right? Palm kernel oil is extracted from the meat inside the fruit, but not our usual palm oil. Our usual palm oil is from the whole thing. Right? So the polyunsaturated is a bit higher. So palm oil would be my second choice. But nowadays, of course, palm oil is so widespread. So that would be the second choice. You can't get coconut oil. In the West, there's a lot of resistance against palm oil. People would seek out palm oil and say, well, I would avoid palm oil, of course. And that's for the environmental effect. Right? So that's a separate issue altogether. As I said earlier, the environmental effect of palm oil agriculture, that is palm oil plantation, right? And compare that to cutting down of the American Amazon rainforest for animal agriculture. Right? Palm oil is not as bad, right? Because certainly after a few years, once the palms start to come up, or the trees will be replaced already. Yeah, I think I answered that. The coconut oil, sadly, coconut oil is good for. But if you can avoid oil, that's good too. Yeah, the question about long beans and ladies' fingers. I think beans are good. All beans are good. So, that any vegetable actually, beans are vegetables. So that would be good too. Right. I think I covered that. The oil, the list of oil. I say, that to me, the healthiest is coconut. Right. Number 2 is palm, and number 3 only is olive oil. Now, in the West, olive oil is best because the so-called Mediterranean diet. No, olive oil has quite high monounsaturated fat content. Monounsaturated means it's only one double one, right? So olic acid. Now, so you can still damage it, but it's not so critical to our health because olive oil, and some people call it omega-9, is not essential for our cells to function properly, right? Because our body can make the omega-9. So it's not so critical, even though you can still damage it. Now, if you can't get any better, that is, you cannot get number 1 and number 2, the coconut and the palm, right? And the other alternatives are sunflower, corn, canola, and so on. And olive oil is quite good. Right? So any oil that is high in polyunsaturated is good, is bad news, right? Before I started looking at this thing, I was looking for canola oil because it's high omega-3. Right? Canola oil also is quite high in monounsaturated, but the emphasis is the omega-3. The only canola oil is good because the omega-3 is high. Right? Omega-3 is polyunsaturated, so it can be damaged too. right? So that's a problem. Right? So any of these oil that is high in polyunsaturated, right, I would avoid as much as possible. Right? Now, as I said, the oil is critical and important, but the margarine is worse. Right? I don't believe that you can get margarine that is contains no damaged oil. There must be some degree of alteration to the oil in order for it to become solid. So there must be some damage to the oil. Yeah, it's interesting question about innovation. Right? In fact, actually, I read somewhere that Bill Gates actually invested in some technology, biotechnology, to produce palm oil, not coconut oil, palm oil, right? in the lab. Yeah? I think that's entirely possible. You can make anything these days, right? Now, coming back to the whole food plant-based diet, I don't know whether you heard of this plant-based burger. Right? There's one called Impossible Burger. Right? And there are alternatives. Right? Instead of using animal meat as the base, right, they can grow this plant protein or beans, right, in the lab, and use that as the base for producing what is burgers, right? The plant-based burgers, bean burgers, and make it. Of course, they add all kinds of things to it to make it look and taste like beef burger. Right? So this is entirely possible, and it is marvelous too if you can do this thing, because it's great for the preservation of our environment. Great. Thank you very much for staying with us. If you have any more questions, do add them in the comments, and we will try to answer them later on. We do apologize most sincerely for the beginning of our live stream here because of technical issues. That the audio wasn't very good and so on because of unstable connections here. If you have any, sorry if you missed out anything, we do apologize. And if you have any questions and so on, do put them in the comments and we will get back to you. Need any more clarification and so on, you can get in touch with my Facebook page and so on, then we can communicate further. Thank you very much indeed. Yeah. 哇，你的背够了。